thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. Killing the game and I gotta go ask anybody, they all heard about it. They know when the kid and he's spitting it, know when he getting it, bit and I get in my way. Got this, I like do whatever I say, cause I could go put you on blast. People been mad at me cause I don't follow them back. I'm laughing cause that is so whack. Why they all trying to act like they been bossing when really their boss has been bossing them up? Nobody ever been telling me what I would do when I keep in the cash, for the shit out of luck. I want it more, now I get what I wish. Upgrading now with some pants that I whip. Making 6 figures, don't talk about it. Money ain't shit, it's about how you think. Tired of people who making excuses, then they complain about losing. Tell me about what you been doing, tell me about how you been moving. You ain't got nothing to prove then. I did it all on my own, they looking like all of my clones. I don't be following trends, fuck all the popular clothes. You faking and everyone knows, I just be keeping it real. They thinking that I have to go sign a deal, but really the people just found an appeal. I'm in my own lane and I'm steering the wheel, ayy. It's funny how it goes, funny how it goes. Working every night till the sunrise.
Welcome back once again, XW Galaxy. No False Finish, Season 5, Episode 2.
Threw it back.
Yeah, that's way back, like 4 flats on a Cadillac.
That's right. Oh. This is like XCW, and we're like, you want to wrestle Wednesday and Friday this week?
Yeah. Could you imagine if the current roster was like, we got a show on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday this week?
Yeah. Well, what's the storyline? What the hell's the storyline? We're just going to beat the shit out of each other.
Storyline is VK2 hates MPG.
That's right.
Chris really hates Cynical.
That's right.
You're going to hear Cynical be shouted the whole show. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Take the can off.
And we're talking about one of XCW's biggest...
I think I wore this shirt that show. Halloween Havoc 04, I'm pretty sure. I wrestled in a 4-way. It was me, D-Mac, DTC, and Stingray.
I remember that was one of the last few matches before you could actually... It was one of the last few matches you could see before, it got dark.
Yeah, and then it was Azrael and Disciple, and then it went to hell after that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about SummerMania 16.
Okay.
We're
complete opposite of this, but alright.
We've only talked about one other SummerMania, I believe, in No False History, so hot. SummerMania 16, lots of big things happening this season. Going into SummerMania 16, what was the mindset behind what we were doing?
I think the mindset behind SummerMania is always to make it bigger and better than the previous year. The problem is that we trying to outdo each and every year. It's just become more and more strenuous on me. It's become more and more difficult with every growing year to make it stand out from the last and make it bigger and better. Especially coming off of SummerMania 15, which, in my opinion, is probably the best SummerMania of all time. It was tough. It was difficult. Yeah.
You keep going bigger and bigger each year. You're going to get that LeBron James receding hairline. Man.
Yeah.
So we're starting off with the worst match of the show.
We're on the pre-show, right?
We're on the pre-show.
All right.
Fucking MILF Hunter versus Stevie fucking Goebel. And MILF Hunter's last match is what we're billing it as. Mm-hmm. MILF Hunter's retirement match. MILF Hunter goes over. Why did you give him the chance for this?
Well, I mean, MILF Hunter has been in and out of XW since 2004. He's kind of one of those guys that was, well, even 03, I guess he was in the inaugural season, but a guy that when I broke into backyard wrestling and showed well at BYWE, like he was a mainstay there, and that was how we met. And then when XW became a thing in 2003, he was one of those guys that stepped up and was willing to help out, to help branch the name out there, get some guys on the good, bad, or different. He helped bring some of those guys in, the Ratitudes and the Corruptions of the world. And so, him and I had some falling outs over the years. There was even a big knockdown drag out in 2010 between, the three of us, me, you, and MILF. Things went down, and he he had a huge hiatus, like a 7-year hiatus from XW between that stint. In 17 when he came back, he was like, I want one more run, and then I'd like to be able to go out on a SummerMania. And even that year, he stepped up and gave us an opportunity to perform on a location that he provided and stuff. So it's a kind of a what comes around goes around. We've scratched each other's backs throughout the years, and
isn't that kind of how your old song used to go? The El Nino song.
Yeah. So it just kind of came back around. He had his last run in 17, and then he was like, when the time's right, I want to be able to come back and do one, last for all at a SummerMania, and things just kind of landed this year where it's like, hey, I can use him for Extreme King.
Yep.
And then we just kind of go from there. With his last match on the official roster of his last run, he was in a feud with Stevie Goebel, and Stevie, has been in and out for the last few years, so it just kind of made sense to ease that program in and squash it once for all.
So something that doesn't get to happen very often. As we kicked off SummerMania, the proclaimed biggest show of the year, we had the XCW Championship being defended. Hayden Vex and diehard Corey Lee, and
here's a unique situation for this.
And Hayden Vex was able to claim that victory and walk out as champion still.
Well, obviously, it was very early in the Hayden cash in. He just cashed in his Money in the Bank privilege at Extreme King in June. So knowing how that we were going to do the finish to the Extreme King match with the screwed finish of Brogan O'Shea and Corey Lee, which the whole point was to catapult Brogan into a bigger heel so that we could set him up for the passing of the torch match with you. So with that being said, we didn't want Corey to win another Extreme King just because he'd already won 2. That time had already passed, and I like to give opportunities to other guys to be able to stake their claim for big matches like Money in the Banks and stuff like that. So so this gave us the opportunity to kind of stick the feather in someone new's cap, and give them a huge rub. But we just coming off of Hayden and Brogan feud earlier in the year with the alcoholism storyline. So we're like, hey, we need to pivot. We need to go somewhere else with this. And we knew that Corey and Hayden were going to be able to have a banger of a match for the title, but we needed to get Brogan to a certain point. So the problem with it was that it didn't really create a whole lot of time for us to create an issue between Hayden and Corey Lee. It didn't have enough time to really marinate that was your main event and that was your title match. It was never going to be a storyline per se because technically the whole premise is the title. But what really threw a wrench in the plans, what really set us up to where we're like, there's zero chance that this match can main event, was when the show leading into SummerMania, Corey Lee got COVID and had to miss the event. And we just knew right then and there was no time to build a match between them that's not going to be cold.
Yeah.
We knew that they were going to be able to have a good match, and that's why they started the show. But in a storytelling sense, and even a way to build their match, we knew that there was no chance we were going to have time to build this match.
There wasn't. When we started writing out the stories for the season, we obviously write a certain length. And we had talked about earlier ideas, we had already knew that it was going to be Chris Jones and Brogan at SummerMania back in November when you asked me to come back and be the GM. We knew I was wrestling the Allegiance match, and we knew I was wrestling Brogan. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have anything slated for to get Brogan to be, and then like what was ever going to be in that particular picture. And originally it was slated DJ was going to win Extreme King is what we had talked about originally, and so we pivoted
just because of off the wave, the momentum
Yeah.
that he had against me.
and we pivoted. We switched some things up, and ultimately, obviously, Corey Lee getting COVID, having to miss the show. There wasn't a lot of build for it. So next, though, speaking of DJ Wahlberg, we have one of the guys with the biggest pushes of the season, hot, Frantic Jesse Justice, and my favorite time. Frantic Jesse Justice and DJ Wahlberg in the SummerMania Cup Finals, and Jesse and Herbert, so to speak, they would be able to capture that victory and become Mr. SummerMania.
Yeah, a lot of this is it stems off of their history. You know, both men were part of Lake Evil at one point, and they were, you know, kind of in a tag team alongside Vapor and Brandon Hobbs, and that was supposed to be something that kind of came full circle. You know, all these years later, and now they're meeting each other one-on-one, and it was honestly, you know, we were trying to capitalize on the momentum that DJ had with me, and, you know, how strong of a season he had to start, you know, and put him against Jesse, to give Jesse that rub, because we knew that Jesse was the one that was going to be catapult into, you know, Jesse was getting the rub off of DJ.
Yes.
It may not seem that way, but with DJ's momentum and how much, you know, power and driving force he had behind him to start the season, we knew that we, you know, if we were going to push Jesse, if we were going to get Jesse to the next portion of his career, we're going to have to do something strong. And the SummerMania Cup kind of fell under the wayside the past couple of years. Before that, it was used. We crowned him Mr. SummerMania before SummerMania a couple of years ago when I won it to as an opportunity to face Venom.
Yeah.
And then last year, Psychor literally just said, "Oh, this match is for the Cup," and pretty much awarded himself a winner against Stevie. So we were like, we need to give some meaning back to the Mr. SummerMania Cup. We need to put it back on the main card, and this was our opportunity, and it gave a good rub to Jesse.
I remember that. Next up, we had a tag team match between Violent Ending facing off against Miano Diaz and I believe a surprise partner of James Cerebral, like we didn't know ahead of time, but a surprise partner of James Cerebral for the tag titles, and Violent Ending obviously would reign supreme.
Tag titles have been, it's been a love-hate for years. We retired the titles in 06, brought them back in 09, when we built back up the tag division. Tag division kind of, it's had its ups and downs. It's had really great years, like I think like 12 season. We had Peruvian Warriors, we had Team Reign, we had all these big teams, you know, Canadian Forces, all this stuff, and like that was a peak point, a huge point in the tag team division. And then, you know, it kind of like dwindled down. And then we came back. We had like Hardcore Deliverance and End of Days and all these teams and Untouchables, and then it kind of dwindled back down. And then we come back, and then we got another new set of teams. We got the Freedom Fighters, we got Starstruck Entertainment, and then it's got another high, and then it dwindled. And unfortunately, you know, like once Starstruck had ran its course, and the injuries started to come back to Brendan, and Heart of the Storm had kind of run their course. Violent Ending, unfortunately, came to a point when they become tag champs that division started to dwindle again.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that it was featured on the card, and the best way to do that was we had a new up-and-comer in Miano Diaz who really hadn't gotten his feet wet, really hadn't had a storyline yet. He just made his debut. You know, the newest guys other than Miano would have been like Jay Ellis, who just debuted in January. So, hey, why not Violent Ending? Kind of like, hey, we're not the new kids on the block. Let's pick on the new kid.
Yeah.
And it gave us a unique way of having a surprise. on the card. Originally, it was me and Taven. And then we did Taven got the beatdown, and then James Cerebral would step up in his place, and it would be a nice little surprise to get such a big star, a man who has main evented of SummerMania as a champion in his own right before James Cerebral. It was a nice little rub. It didn't work. We tried.
True. Next up, we had the Boat. Kurt Acid, just recently turning on Patrick O'Reilly. Going one-on-one with Patrick O'Reilly. Kurt would face him in a losing effort, and Patrick O'Reilly would get the win.
It's another attempt, another last-ditch effort to try to get Patrick O'Reilly over, and this time, for the first time in Patrick's career, he's flipped sides. He's come to the good guy side. And, I feel like it was a long time coming. It was something that, in my opinion, has benefited Patrick O'Reilly's career, as turning him good after all these years, giving him a new coat of paint. And it worked out for what it was. Obviously, they held down the tag team division, which is what kind of put Violent Ending in such a unique spot. But Patrick O'Reilly and Genocide had a feud prior, and then, them coming together made Genocide realize maybe he's better than he and then that's how the Boat thing was born, and Kurt Acid was reborn, and I think it being with Patrick gave Kurt Acid a new confidence, and it really catapulted both men and really pushing them for a career resurgence. It helped.
A lot of people don't know, behind the scenes, but, when we went through our wrestling training, the last 3 people that were even interested in training with NEW was, me, Dylan, and Benji. And, it made me so happy when we talked about it. You told me, we're going to do the beautiful Benji Bertram, but we're going to do it like this. And I was like, my dick's hard now.
Yeah, I think it did a lot. I feel like Genocide himself, he was just kind of complacent.
Yeah.
And, obviously Patrick had gotten stale. And this was a way to do literally just a character overhaul for both men, and it worked. It worked out pretty well.
And Kurt Acid getting to, I keep wanting to call him Genocide, it's hard. Kurt Acid, getting to channel that beautiful Benji Bertram finally. And I think they were both...
He has a new confidence.
Yeah, he is different than the Kurt Acid that was in his and Patrick's team, by far. And with that, we're going to go to our first commercial break.
Do it now.
I stood up for you, and I stood up for her.
Do it now.
I'm gonna kick your fucking ass now.
Do it now.
I came out here to get crowned. I have been crowned.
Do it now.
250 pounds from Indianapolis.
There we go. Ref call for the
I'll
bell.
tell you right now, I'm the best of all time. Everybody respects me.
Show this man some respect.
That's the case. What the saying is, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right?
Oh, wait, ladies and gentlemen, that's it.
Yes, it's slammed on autopilot.
Factory and he hit it all. Holy shit.
Oh my God!
And we're back, chugging our way through SummerMania 16. And we talked about the boat and Patrick O'Reilly. Moving on to double duty. Frantic Jesse Justice, coming out and battling Deacon Storm for the Hardcore Championship. And unfortunately for Jesse, maybe the previous match had taken a toll on him, but Jesse was not able to be victorious over Deacon.
So I've been questioned a lot about the finish of this match because ultimately it ended up Deacon and DJ in the feud. Why not just have DJ beat Jesse Justice, go against Deacon, and that set up for them to have an eventual feud?
Yeah.
Why have DJ lose, go against Jesse and Deacon, and then DJ just interfere in the match and attack Deacon anyway? Well, there's a lot to this story. There's the most behind the scenes, I think, in this particular thing than the entire card. So, obviously, there's some backstage issues between Trinity Parker and Blackheart. Real life, there were a couple things went south. You're going to learn about that on an upcoming show that we have called sometime later. Trinity tells her whole story. But, real life, behind the scenes, there were some issues within their relationship. They broke up. Both of them not real good, and not in a very good place mentally.
Yep.
And both of them at different points had to take some time off this season, which really threw a monkey wrench in a lot of the plans, a lot of the execution of how we were doing things, and SummerMania being included. Because obviously the whole point was to do the short-lived reunion of Heart of the Storm that eventually lead to Deacon and Blackheart having this big blow-up match at SummerMania for the Hardcore title. Two former partners, two former best friends. The problem is they were legit former best friends. Behind the scenes, some things went down between them even that really put us in a compromising situation. I will let them tell their own story on that, but with all their backstage issues, some of the things that was just going on behind the scenes, I made the judgment call that it was time for Blackheart to maybe, him and I talked about him taking a short hiatus and him going to deal with his things and stuff. And unfortunately, that just didn't line up right for him to participate in SummerMania.
Yeah.
That ultimately leaves Deacon and Trinity without anything, without a leg to stand on, without a pot to piss in at all when it came to SummerMania. Alluding back to what we talked about earlier, we wanted to give a little bit of legitimacy back to the Cup. That's fallen under the wayside in the last couple of years before that. So we decided if we put it on the card, not only do we put it on the card, but if we give it another little boost, that'll really draw, some attention back to the Cup. So we decided that the winner of the Cup would then ultimately go on to face the Hardcore Champion later in the night. Almost like a cash-in, standpoint. If you win that Cup, now you have a title opportunity. We did it with Jesse, obviously, for what we talked about earlier. It was time to push Jesse to that next level and give him a shot in the arm. That's right. But we knew that long-term storytelling wasn't going to be between Jesse and Deacon.
Yeah.
Jesse and Deacon was the match to pull off because I knew that I could trust them to have a SummerMania caliber match because the two had a feud early in the year. And at Cold Day in Hell, Deacon actually won his first singles championship from Jesse in a trunk match. So it kind of came full circle mid-season. And then obviously, at that point, you can have DJ where he's jealous of the fact that Jesse Justice would go on to the match, but in strange turn of events would attack Deacon rather than Jesse Justice.
Yeah.
And put his new focus, which which we've seen recently, his new focus has been, distracting Deacon by interfering in Trinity Parker's affairs.
Which has been very sort of looking for. It's pushed their creative juices to the limits, so to speak, allowing them to the chance to be able to shine on a different foot instead of, like you said previously, like Deacon might not be the best mic, but he tells the story in the ring, giving Deacon and DJ, even Trinity, the chance to tell that story in a promo where they don't necessarily have to, the storyline, they don't have to talk as much in a promo.
Right.
Which, when we get to All or Nothing, and that's finally aired on YouTube, they'll be able to see some of that stuff. Next, we have something interesting. We have the New Age Championship on the line. And I'm curious on your thoughts of Tommy the Man Merriman, Void being the New Age Champion, and Venom. Obviously, Void would be able to come out of the match with the New Age Championship, but I don't know why Venom was a part of this.
Okay, so ultimately, the original plan was Venom was going to participate in the entire 2021 season. But as the Vengeance storyline progressed in early in the year and stuff, we realized that Venom was no longer in a physical condition that he can hold up as an in-ring competitor.
Yes.
His weight has gotten the best of him even to this day. And he's not able to go out and be the performer that we need him to be and that he needs to be. And with that, we had to make the cautious effort of it's time to pull him. It's time to get him out of the ring for his and our fellow wrestlers' safety.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a part of that, like he's the one that made the turn on Vengeance in the Allegiance match. And his turn was on Tommy Merriman. So that left Tommy in a position where Tommy kind of had nowhere to go because Tommy's next program was with Venom.
Yeah.
So it just so happened at the same time that Void was coming off of his last storyline as well. And Tommy and Void had another feud back in 16. Very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well done program between the two of them. So this is the first time that they had worked together since 2016, and I knew that I could get quality matches between the two. And behind the scenes, Void, Venom, and Tommy are all fairly close. Tommy and Venom were even two of the guys that were out there. When Void proposed to his girlfriend earlier this year in a match with ACT.
Yep.
So they're actually a tight-knit group, and I just decided it was time to play that out on camera.
Yeah.
So we decided to pull the trigger of having Void, kind of mentoring Venom to get him back into shape. Trying to help him in his weight loss journey to try to get him better, get him back into the ring. And then Tommy's character always takes things personal.
Yep.
So Tommy's character, now has an issue with Venom, or with Void, over the fact that he's trying to help Venom, and Venom's want to turn his back on him. He's supposed to be his friend as well.
Yeah.
As this story progressed, it then came to light Tommy Merriman had never in his career held the New Age Championship, which even to this day, Tommy has never been an XW New Age Champion. It's the only title Tommy has never won in XW history. So that added a new focus to it. Well, Venom successfully lost over 20 pounds between the time of the attack that Tommy had on Venom to SummerMania. And as a reward, I was like, hey, you've been doing well. I know, obviously as a wrestler, any of us, there just comes a time where you're kind of chomping at the bit. You want to be in there.
Yeah.
And SummerMania's coming. Two of his good buddies are in a storyline that he's super involved in. And I was like, why don't we do a triple threat? That limits the amount of time that Venom has to spend in the ring, and the amount of time that he has to spend, trying to perform, while the other two can perform, and it keeps him involved. The storyline, the build-up, everything that led to it was executed great.
Yep.
But I feel like the SummerMania match fell short. And I'm not real sure why, but it just didn't click the way that it needed to. But ultimately, now Venom has a place while he's still fighting his weight loss journey, as a manager, sidekick to Void. And it gave a unique opportunity for the three good friends to work together at SummerMania.
And ultimately, we know what would become of Void being successful, being able to be the first person to utilize the Lucky 7 rule for the New Age Championship.
And Evan himself is halfway there.
And Evan himself is halfway there, and that's what we're getting to next. It is none other than Evan Phoenix versus his former bodyguard, the Enforcer, Jaden Tucker.
So a lot of people don't know this. This storyline idea was actually proposed by Evan himself.
By Evan, yep.
I think me putting Jaden Tucker with Evan Phoenix this season previous, with Evan coming off of the ST4 win and all that stuff, and
Yep.
being one of the biggest things I think Evan's ever done in his career, being champion and all that stuff, to keep Evan from falling through the cracks and going back to Kurt and Durkin, to keep him relevant, I needed to do something that was really going to keep his character relevant in what he was doing. And I just felt like the best way to do that was we had this guy who we had originally trained. He was originally supposed to be named Storm, and he was going to be the bodyguard for DJ Wolbert.
Yeah.
And that was how we were going to push DJ into a little bit newer heights, because it's hard to tell a story of DJ going against a guy like Venom, obviously.
Yep.
But if you have a guy who's, mid-200s and, he's going in there backing up DJ Wolbert, now DJ's got, he becomes a legitimate threat.
Yep.
Things didn't work out. DJ got injured. Things happened where Storm, Jaden Tucker, would make his exit from XW for a while. When we got back in talks and we brought him in and started training, he had a completely different mindset than he had the first time, and he was more eager to learn his craft, which I feel like he did.
Yeah.
And he continues to improve. He has days better than others.
Yeah.
But he's here to stay. He's doing a phenomenal job this season. And we put him with Evan and went kind of with the same thing. Instead of the shot in the arm DJ was needing, now we're giving it to Evan. And Evan was like, what if we stretch this out? Eventually I get jealous of him. We eliminate each other from Extreme King, and then this ends with me taking the loss against Jaden at SummerMania, and that's big of someone to, he thought enough of Jaden to, even in the early goings, was like, hey, if we're gonna get this guy over, let's get him over this way. He can beat me at SummerMania. Huge of Evan.
Yep.
And in my opinion, the story worked.
Yeah, not a lot of people, new or old people, willing to volunteer for that loss, so to speak. And off of that, we're going to go into the next match, which is none other than the Virus, Fletch, versus one of our good buddies, Psycor. You lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually do it SummerMania. So the backstory of this is Psycor and I both, been in XW together since 2004, and very, very few times have we crossed paths, especially on opposite sides of the ring. There was a short stint there with VK3 where he was a member of that, me and him and you and myself, Kurt Acid and whatever. And so we had that short stint where we were friends and we were partners. But all in all, like, our paths never really crossed through all the years, and like it never really dawned on me. It's not like it was calculated, like, let's keep Fletch and Psychor away from each other for 20 years so that we can. it just never, Psychor always had somewhere else to be story wise. I always had somewhere else to be story wise, and it just never lined up for us to sensibly have a feud or any type of match. And with me kind of in the twilight of my career right now, where some odds and ends stories and some tags and some stuff here and there. One thing that Psychor said, he's like, hey, this is probably a last Raw, a last run for me as well. And one thing that I never had the opportunity to do was face you one-on-one. And so when we saw at the beginning of the year, I'm like, all right, let's make sure that Psychor gets his match. Let's make sure that he gets his title run. Let's make sure that he gets his match with me. Let's give him all the things that I promised that I would give him when he came back as a general manager.
Because it was almost, a lot of people don't realize, is that it wasn't supposed to be me and you last year.
Right.
It was almost one of the talked about things. Well, originally it was supposed to be you and Austin.
Yes, me and Austin Chaos.
But
we're going to finish from what we started in at Reunion 17.
And then the other name that was mentioned was Psychor.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said, ultimately, we didn't do a thing because we did each other. And then Psychor and you having this match, and you giving Psychor the rub at the end. Next up, we have two hot young fighters in the All-American, Brady Branson and the Scholar, ACT, battling it out for the International Championship, and Brady Branson would walk out of this.
I love being able to work with ACT.
And it was TLC, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
TLC match, yeah.
I love being able to work with these two because their characters are so unique and so specific to them that you can't do storylines and do the different things that you can do with them with anyone. Anyone. Like, you can do so many different things that deals with Americana or patriotic things and stuff like that, or even you could take something as simple as a tax form and make it about Brady Branson, and you can't do that about anyone else, and that's such a good thing to have. It's such a unique trait, where Chris Jones is very open-ended. You really have to pry, like, okay, well, we're going to have to make it about his ex-girlfriend or about, dick cream, or we're going to have to come up with something stupid and creative to fucking create a story that's going to be, compelling. Or, how Tommy beat up his dad. We had to really draw at straws to come up with certain things. And the cool thing about those two guys is ACT has so many things at his disposal, like, in regards of, like, having access to certain things and stuff like that. Like, it makes everything that he can do unique to him that no one else can do. And it's a lot of the same for Brady. And like I said, you could have somebody didn't pay their taxes for 2 years. Now Brady's got an issue with that. And like you could create something so simple off of that.
Yeah.
And it's the same with ACT. And ACT also has the opportunity where he has access to stadiums and college campuses and hospitals and escape rooms and all these different things that we in this small town of Shuttle don't have access to.
We're dating the wrong people.
Yeah. So he has access to all of these different unique things.
Yeah.
On top of having a very unique character himself, where you can take him to a bank and he can talk about how he cashed in this, and this, and you are struggling to get a 401k. And he's outsmarted you. Yeah. Or you could take him to, like at All or Nothing, he went to a bank, just so he could talk about winning money in the bank. And you could take him to a school. You could, and he's gonna talk about how his experiences as a college graduate, or, there's so many unique elements to these guys, and that's what made their feud so fun. We brought in a teacher so that, ACT talks about how he's a Harvard graduate. He's smarter than most of the people who taught him, and then he questions Brady's education.
Yeah.
And then Brady's like, hey, there's a specific teacher that made me into the man that I am. Well, take it upon ACT to find that teacher and beat his ass, because he believes that Brady isn't educated at all, and that he's always going to be able to outsmart. And that's the fun thing about ACT's character, is he always finds a way to outsmart the person. He'll even have to outwit them. He doesn't have to out-wrestle them. He just outsmart them. And it's such a unique way, and it's two up-and-comers that really needed a spotlight, and what better way than, plus Brady had never lost the international title the first reign he had.
Yeah.
And this gave him an opportunity to recapture a title that he never lost. And ACT coming in a year's time in XW and already captured New Age title and almost successfully had the longest reign in history, and then became international champion and had this two major feuds in 2 years at SummerMania between him and Brendan from the year before. Was a standout, stellar storyline, and then 1 year later he's with Brady doing it all over again.
Yep.
So, this is one of those matches, one of those stories from the card that really excited me.
Yeah, they came to me the day of while I was, thumbtacking the styrofoam baseball bat. Like, what do you think we should do? And I just gave really small advice. I'm like, you guys don't need my help. You guys got it. And they went out there and had a good match. Now, bouncing off the semi-main event of ACT and Brady Branson, going on to the main event of the night. A year in the making. Essentially a year in the making. The Rambler, Brogan O'Shea, the franchise player Chris Jones. Brogan would walk out well, I don't know if he really walked very good, but Brogan would stand tall at the end of this match.
I don't think that the guys within our company understand the magnitude of what this match was.
I don't think they do either.
When you ask anyone in ACW, maybe not so much these guys now because they weren't around.
Yeah.
But when you look at ACW through 20 years, you look at it through Chris Jones' glasses.
Yeah.
See it through Chris Jones' eyes. Like, Chris Jones is not just a moniker of the franchise player. You were XCW for years and years and years and years. And I don't think people took it seriously that, hey, Chris's career is winding down. He's transitioning into this, these other roles within the company and not going to be in the ring. And I even talked about in the last episode, No False, like, it's time to look past us and start looking at the ACTs, the Brogans, the Bradys, the Evans, the, so on. Since Brogan's cash-in a year prior, there's, whether our guys want to admit it or not, because all of them are competitive, all of them want to be on top.
Yeah.
They all have to admit, Brogan's the groundswell. Brogan was the one that everyone was behind.
Yep.
Brogan won Superstar of the Year last year, and that tells you. We knew right from the start, Brogan was the biggest heel in the company last year, and not only won Superstar of the Year, but exceeded expectations. Everyone wants to either be Brogan's tag partner or they want to feud him. And I don't think people really put that into perspective. They're like, oh, well, I know that if I'm a tag with Brogan, we're going to be a great tag. If I feud Brogan, we're going to be a great feud. And it just ended up being where it's like, no one has had that kind of, I mean, there's been guys in and out, you know, like people like, I really want to work with Arcane.
Yeah.
Or I really want to work with so-and-so, but there hasn't been that kind of reaction of people wanting to work with or having the confidence in working with someone as much as Brogan since you.
Yeah.
And right then, it's like, we knew, it's like, this is it. Like, we either take the shot to push Brogan to that next level, somehow, some way, or we're never going to be able to create a top guy ever again. Like, a Chris Jones caliber, Corey Lee caliber top guy. This is it. We have Brogan and Brady. Let's not fuck this up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. We put Brady with ACT. ACT still knew enough that if he takes the L to Brady, it doesn't hurt his career, but it still catapults Brady even higher.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the same token, like right now, you either establish Brogan O'Shea as the top guy, or you lose having that top guy forever.
Yeah.
We haven't had that top guy feel without Chris Jones being in the ring full time.
Yeah.
So this was a make or break, and you know, Hazard was willing to come back and help us out with the match, and
I forgot to include Hazard was a special guest referee.
and so it's just like there were so many different elements. It's like, if we're gonna do something big, we need to do it now. And I still, like I said, to this day, I don't think that people within our roster understand how, even Brogan himself, I don't think understands how big of a deal it was.
Definitely exceeded any expectations I had set beforehand. I knew going into this, like, that Brogan was the person. And I knew, you know, being the old stubborn vet that I'm going to make him earn this in this match. And I went out there and did that. If Brogan hit me with something, oh, you bet your ass to hit Brogan 10 times harder. Like, just look at that baseball bat shot.
And I'm not saying that the guys that are on our undercard right now, or that are even scratching that surface, you know, the Evans and ACTs and guys like that, I'm not saying that they'll never, oh, well, we have our established guy, Brogan's it, that's it. But somebody's got to be that face of the company right now. And if it's not, you know, with me, you, and Corey, not there.
Yeah.
Right now, you're looking at Hayden, Brogan, and Brady.
Yeah. And he exceeded expectations. I've never worked with Brogan besides like minor training. And like I was able to go out there and do with him what I could do with like a U or a Hazard. Like we talked last No False episode about, like, there was no words. It was all like, it was just the wrestling knowledge of knowing what was going to happen next. Obviously, we knew about the very end. A lot of people don't know is like the end of the match. Like we knew Brogan, me and you knew Brogan was going to win. But like there was a chance, like you had left it up to me after the match, like, okay, well Chris, Brogan is going to be like that next good guy, so I'll give you the option. You know, these are the two options. Obviously, you do what we went with, or you know, Brogan beats the shit out of you, and we proceed after that. And I'm like, well, I think we need to do it this way, which is what we did with the handshake. And like, we got to do so many unique things in that match. Like, we got to do like my favorite WrestleMania is one of them is WrestleMania 19. It's my favorite live performance, and it's the last match between Stone Cold and The Rock. And you know, The Rock finally got the torch from Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't even remember that. Like, The Rock had never beat Stone Cold at WrestleMania beforehand. You know, so we did the little funny thing, you know, I put the vest on and stuff like that, you know. And we had been touting the conspiracy storyline about Chris Jones and the Illuminati, the conspiracy, and like Brogan wanted to kill that conspiracy. which is why we went to the lengths we did. This is honestly probably the most brutal match I've had. And, that's why we went with Brogan being able to do the Weed Eater. Ultimately, Brogan would be victorious.
And on top of all of that, for Hazard to come back and give the nod.
Oh, yeah. He
knew, and he hadn't even been here in a year, and he knew, like, this is the right decision.
Yeah. And I was able to give him, words of encouragement, like The Rock did Stone Cold. I said a few things to Brogan. I meant what I said. And we'll see what comes out of that. I gave him the keys, to the car, gave him the shoes.
Yep.
And obviously he's currently injured, but like you said, he's going to wrestle at Halloween Havoc. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And with SummerMania in the books, like out of 5 stars, I'm going to say, because we usually defer, I'm going to say probably 4.
I was going to say 3 1/4.
We're close. I say 4.
I actually think the Redemption, the following show, was better.
I was going to say if you take the MILF Hunter
Quality-wise.
If you take MILF Hunter Stevie Goebel up, off the card, I could bump it to 4.
I think if we would have had more of an opportunity to build the title match,
the Corey head back.
If we would have had the payoff of Deacon Blackheart, which we eventually did get,
yes,
and the match was phenomenal too.
Yes.
And if they could have had that match on SummerMania card, I think it would have been bigger. I think the things that hold up on the SummerMania card is the TLC and the death match. I think that the title match fell short. Even Corey himself was like, something wasn't there. Yeah. And myself and Psycor, like, I went into that match, once again, injured. 2 SummerManias in a row.
At least this time it wasn't Brady's fault.
Yeah, but, unfortunately for me, like, that's been kind of a running thing, like, I get hurt last year, SummerMania, hurt my foot this year, just dealing with some nagging stuff. Then literally the next show, I hurt my shoulder.
Yeah.
Now, I've been fighting COVID breathing issues and stuff like that. It's just,
Another thing also did it for me is, like, I was very happy with the special entrances this year for the few that we did have. It pays ode to, like, the Chris Jones Brogan thing where you did more than I asked for my entrance. All I really wanted was, like, you to mash up the entrance songs, wherever you went over the top. You did, like, the history of Chris Jones and XCW. What choice? Because you did the history of Chris Jones and XCW, and Brogan, is captured that and conquered that. So, I say 4, but SummerMania 16 in the books. In my opinion, one of the better shows this season. Not the best show, but one of the better shows this season. I was very happy with it. Like you said, if there was anything you could have changed, you would have changed. Maybe we build those 2 storylines a little bit more. Outside that, we're going to get off here. Join us next time for Season 5, Episode 3.
Too many thoughts in my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. Killing the game and I gotta go ask anybody, they all heard about it. They know when the kid and he's spitting it, know when he get in it, bed and I get in my way. Got this, I like do whatever I say, cause I could go put you on blast. People been mad at me cause I don't follow them back. I'm laughing cause that is so whack. Why they all trying to act like they been bossing when really their boss has been bossing them up? Nobody ever been telling me what I would do when I keep in the cash, right the shit out of luck. Ayy. It's funny how it goes, funny how it goes. Talking about shit they don't even know. Why they tryna tell me about what I should do? They don't know about the shit I've been through. It ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Been 4 years, I've been chasing dreams. This ain't overnight, this ain't overnight. Working every night till the sunrise.